Morning, folks. Zach here. Today is cardio day. Finished up legs push-pull yesterday with our pull day. So we are resting today, eating, and of course doing a little cardio because, you know, don't skip cardio. I usually get my 10,000 steps, but on rest days, it's not guaranteed like I mentioned before, so I'm gonna get after it this morning, shooting for 135 to 140 beats per minute, and we'll go for 25 to 35 minutes. Hopefully, I think it's on. Seems like it's on. I got my little arm worn. Yeah, there it is. Cool. All right, we're going. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I hope everybody had a good holiday. Had New Year's Eve last night. It was truly popping off here. Plenty of fireworks the dogs were rather upset about, but thankfully they're pretty easy to console. But yeah, just cruising along. Getting ready for the next microcycle. Gonna be upping some volumes on quads for sure, because they're not, like I mentioned in yesterday's video, they're not even sore anymore. Hamstrings are definitely still sore. Glutes are pretty much recovered. My chest is super sore. Front delts. Side and rear delts are sore. Traps are not sore. And pretty much my entire back. Those, the deficit barbell rows did the trick. Those are no joke, man. I love it. Really good stuff. But yeah, I am cruising along. See where we at. I want to try to find a way to show the heart rate while I do my cardio. Try to get the heart rate up a little faster. I'm still at like 120 right now. So I wanted to finish up that discussion on volume. I've kind of changed my editing style for the lifting videos, and so they're a little bit shorter. So opening up a big topic in like a 12-minute video, not really ideal. So I'll either have to chunk them out like I did, spread them over 2 or 3 episodes, or make a dedicated video. But I did want to talk about that aspect of volume that I was mentioning before, and my reasoning for doing what I'm doing. So on leg day, because my quads are not sore, that's an indicator to me that they were only sore for like 12 hours on the second day, and then they weren't sore anymore. So yeah, that's an indicator to me that I need to increase the volume, or, you know, choose a different exercise. But I don't really have too many options in terms of that. I could do some lunges, maybe really quad focused lunges, put all the weight on the leg that's lunging, and really fry out the quads that way. But last time I did single leg lunges like that, my knees started feeling funny. So I could do another exercise that I really liked. Maybe we did this, I think, four macrocycles ago, and that's goblet squats. And the only thing with goblet squats is they'll fatigue your upper body and your back too. Because holding that dumbbell, it's like an isometric hold for your chest, and then of course your back's trying to counterbalance. But thankfully, I have a really steep driveway, so I will grab that dumbbell and do goblet squats on the driveway. And because it's so deep, I can get super low in the squat, really stretch the quads out totally. And when it's inclined like that, like the reason I wear lifting shoes, you might notice I wear those Reebok lifting shoes. They have a platform on the back to lift your heels up. And it's a benefit to me because my ankle mobility is not the greatest. And when you have ankle mobility issues, it gets hard to get down in the bottom of that squat. So lifting your heels up, even if you had like a wedge or something, getting your feet at that angle can help you sink down in the squat. It makes it a little easier to really stimulate the quads. So that's another good exercise for that. But for now, especially since I'm still massing, I've got plenty of energy and nutrients and everything, I'll probably stick with high bar back squat and reverse Nordic curls. I might, if it becomes too burdensome to keep increasing volume on quads, I might push more of it towards those Nordic curls, because I mean it's a compound movement, but because the lower portion of my legs is fixed and I'm just trying to use my quads to pull myself back up, it's a really good exercise for the quads specifically. So I'll probably just add volume there. But what I decided to do was I added 1 set to high bar back squat and 1 set to reverse Nordic curls. So we'll see how that feels. That should do it. I think, if I remember correctly, 3 sets of Nordic curls was enough to really disturb my legs and make them nice and sore for a couple days after. So try that out. But that's basically the way I do it. I started that first week of the program. I estimate based on previous experience. Like I was saying yesterday, if you don't have any previous experience, start super low. Because if you start super high, you might jack yourself up really bad. You might be super duper sore, or, you know, worst case, actually injure yourself. And then, depending on the severity of the injury, well, now you're out 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or if you're just sore, now you're out a week. And you can't continue your program, so start low. Even if you're choosing a program online or something, or someone's providing one to you, maybe it's what they do. If you haven't exercised, or if you don't do any resistance training currently, drop the volume down by like half. Keep everything simpler and easier than not, because you don't want to accidentally throw off your entire new workout plan, because, you know, it seems reasonable. Oh, you know, 3 sets of bench, and then 3 sets of shoulder press, and then 3 sets of lateral raises, and 3 sets of tricep extensions, and 3 sets of rope pushdowns. It's like, oh, it's just 3 sets. But if you're actually pushing it and you got the intensity is there, okay, 3 sets is about, for me, that's about my, another, you know, term alert, jargon alert, it's what's referred to as MRV. Let's get a little too toasty there. Where was I? Okay, heart rate's still 120. Didn't take very long. Oh, sorry, maximum, not minimum. Maximum recoverable volume. That is, for me, like I'm a straight leg deadlifts, my maximum recoverable volume, my MRV for that, is 1 set. any more than one set, and I will be so sore that the next time I go to do that exercise, and I guess it's technically 3 days, yeah, 3 days after doing straight leg deadlifts, if I try to do them again, I'll be so sore that it affects my performance. And it means I can't push close enough to failure to provide a robust stimulus. And so that's no good, because the frequency is what keeps the gains going and going and going and going. Because if you, I talked about before with that muscle protein synthesis curve, if day 1 you hit the muscle, it's peaked out at day 2, and then by the end of day 3, it's dropping off, and your body's not really signaling to grow that muscle anymore, or not nearly as much. So it makes sense to train it again. But the problem is, if you're so sore that you need to wait 2-3 days after that muscle protein synthesis ends, well, now you're screwed. Now you're losing out on, and if you do that for months, you could be losing out on like 10-15% of hypertrophy stimulus, maybe even more, depending on what muscle it is. Something like shoulders and calves can be trained, every 2 days or every 3 days. So definitely something to think about when you're adopting a new program, or even evaluating someone else's program. Look at the volume there, and there's one of the big problems in the fitness space is ego. Like, one of the biggest problems. People lose sight of the goal that they want because they're concerned with how other people are judging them. So, for example, you might be in the gym. We'll just use me as an example. Take yesterday. I'm curling 15-pound dumbbells. It's not exactly impressive, but my goal is not to impress anybody. My goal is to stimulate hypertrophy in my biceps. And so I'm looking at it through that lens. Not through the, do I look weak? Are people going to see this and be like, oh man, that dude's weak as hell, he can't lift nothing. That's not what I'm going for. I'm training for bodybuilding, so I'm choosing loads that are correct for me, where I'm at right now with my strength and my endurance. That's what I'm considering. I'm not considering how cool it'll look, or how badass it is, or how impressed people will be. Those are neat. If those things happen, that's cool, man. That's great. But that's not the goal. The goal is to get big, to grow all my muscles as big as I can before that show in August. And then on the back half of it, to lose as much body fat as I can and get as shredded as possible to show off all the musculature that I built. It's like carpentry for the body. I'm not trying to, if I wanted to be strong, I would compete in powerlifting or something like that. And, don't get me wrong. If you do bodybuilding training and you're doing it with the correct amount of intensity to grow, to cause growth, you're gonna get stronger. I mean, there's really no way around it. And that's something else I actually wanted to mention, is that I don't care about the numbers in regards to how impressive they are. Because I want to use the lightest weight possible for the longest amount of time and milk every gram of muscle growth I can get from it. And then once it's too easy, increase the load. Once that's too easy, increase the volume. Once that's too easy, increase the load. And it's just a continual, that's progressive overload. Continually increasing the strain, the metabolite accumulation, stretch-mediated hypertrophy, just increase all of these metrics of growth slowly over time, intelligently, you know, and that incorporates exercise selection. Do it intelligently, paying attention to what's happening with my body. You know, what muscles are growing, what muscles need more volume. That's the sport. That's the whole sport of bodybuilding. And I've fallen in love with it again. When I mentioned, I think in my first cardio video, I mentioned that I did that. It wasn't really a test prep because I wasn't testing to prepare for anything, but it was just that little experiment I did with, after seeing that documentary about that regular kind of, you know, a little bit over fat guy getting with the IFBB pro and having him train him, and then, you know, he ends up getting shredded, gains muscle, gets shredded, competes, and he looked crazy. And so after I saw that, when I was in Okinawa, I wanted to try it out, and that's what I did. And it was pretty cool. You actually see on my Instagram, it's Zach0Kane. I've got pictures actually. I think I'll probably post them up in this video just to show you guys kind of what I was looking like at that time, what the physique was like. And it was pretty cool, man. It was awesome. It's the first time I ever got that lean and got to see my physique like that, see my genetic musculature and what I'm working with. It's really a cool thing. I'm really a firm believer that everyone should try to build their physique at some point in their life, because it's just cool to see, man, and you'll probably be really impressed with the way that your body looks. It's cool. It's artistic and aesthetic to me. I love to see it. It's probably weird to a lot of people, you know, grown men in like a bikini, super lean and tanned and oiled up on stage. It sounds weird, but when you see the posing and stuff, and once you know what goes into it, and the pain and suffering of hypocaloric dieting for months, and then you talk about the enhanced guys who have to balance all the gear and the post-cycle therapy and managing, you know, side effects and getting blood work and all this stuff. It is what goes into it, and it's one of the few sports that the training continues 24/7, because you need to get enough sleep to grow, or to not lose, you know, not to go catabolic. You need sleep to repair. You have to eat a specific way in order to maintain the muscle you have when you're cutting, or you have to eat in excess. You may not be that hungry, but you still need to eat whatever number of grams of protein. So it's pretty intense. It's an intense sport, and that's probably why I like it so much. I mean, I ran that Ramble in the Brambles and the Justice Run kind of as a challenge, just to see if I could do it. And I love that kind of stuff. I love pushing myself to accomplish some sort of thing that seems insane. Or whenever I tell people, they're like, "Oh my gosh." And it just cracks me up, because certain people, okay, you know, if you don't have any legs, it's going to be really difficult to run a marathon. But there's other incredible stuff that you can do. But just regular able-bodied folks, dude, that's what I tell people too. You could do it. You could absolutely do it. It's not like I joined, you know, I went to that ultra and won the race. I was like, I think 6th from last or something, like 14th, 15th place or something like that. I'm not fast, but it was a hell of a challenge. You know, my anterior mid-cingulate cortex, it grew that day. It got bigger that day. And that's what I love about it. Like being like 12 miles into a 30-mile race, and I wasn't prepared for the elevation. Straight up. I wasn't ready for it. And it destroyed my hamstrings. They were like knotted up like crazy. But as I was like cramping and stuff before I got to the aid station, I was thinking to myself, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it sucks. But then I was like, oh, my mom's not even here yet. I have to keep running. If she drives an hour and a half out here and I've bailed out of the race, that experience, right? If I absolutely could have gone down that trail, bailed out of the race, walked back to the start, and quit. I could have done that. But that's not the ending I wanted. And I'm really glad that I didn't, because I only ran another mile and a half, got to the aid station. They hooked me up with the miracle concoction. Pickle juice, Oreos, Advil. Smash those, dude. And then, no joke, 15, 20 minutes later, perked right up, going. Ran the whole rest of the race. And I could have let that voice in my head win. I could have, it's what I was talking about with the body dysmorphia stuff. You have to question the appearances that come to you. The thoughts that you have. You should really think about them critically, because not every thought that you have is you, who you truly are. Like, oh, someone did something and now I think this way. This is the opinion I have about it. But how long did you really take to think about and form that opinion? Probably not very long. It was probably instant. As soon as the thought arose and you started to, you know, your amygdala started firing and you started feeling some kind of way. For example, I was hanging out with some friends recently, and the topic of, you know, what someone does job-wise or what career path they choose, it could be super easy to start getting like fired up and defensive. And those are thought, like defensiveness definitely, like immediately started shooting up for me. And so then I thought to myself, well, hold on. Maybe this is less to do with trying to push you or to extract some information from you. Maybe they're actually just curious and they're trying to help. And just that small pivot to questioning this appearance, I avoided a disaster. I could have been a total jerk and been super defensive and made the whole situation awkward and been all fired up. I could have done that. Just like I could have quit the race and been like, it's too hard. I can't do it. But the outcome of that, I guess that's the hard part. And that, I mean, it depends on your brain and your childhood experience, and hell, it even goes all the way back to, you know, were your ancestors cattle herders or rice farmers, or, you know, there's so much that goes into this stuff. So I don't know, it makes it a little easier for me to be gentle on myself. To say, you know what? I don't identify with that thought. That's a whack-ass thought. Nah, man. That's not me. And it's proven to be a really useful tool. So when it comes to something getting difficult, if it really is too hard or too painful or it's damaging you, absolutely stop. Don't do it. You know, it's not worth it. Unless you're about that shit. You know what I mean? If you love that, I think of someone like David Goggins. Does he need to be out there doing all that? No. He doesn't need to do any of that stuff. But he does it anyway, because he enjoys the suffering. It's clear to me. And I enjoy the suffering too, but to a much lesser extent than someone like David Goggins. Dude is out of this world. But it's super motivating. And it kind of puts that whole, he's like the embodiment of Nike. He actually does just do it. He doesn't care. Like, he's going to get it done. And that's a good mentality to have for certain things. So, something to think about, you know. These, I'm trying to come up with a good name for these talks. I don't know. If you guys can think of a good name for these episodes, put it in the comment section, because I'm struggling to figure out what to call it. I really want to do like stationary bike something. Let me think, is there a word for talking that starts with S? Stationary Bike Soliloquy. I don't know, I think soliloquy is like, what is that? That's like a writing pattern or something? What is that? Soliloquy? Oh my gosh. Wow, what a spelling. S-O-L-I-L-O-Q-U-Y. Ooh. Oh my gosh. I guess I'm technically not speaking to myself, but I kind of am. So yeah, all right. Stationary Bike Soliloquies. There you go. That's what we'll call it. I appreciate you guys. Anyone watching this video, I appreciate y'all checking it out. I'm going to sign off here. We're at 27 minutes. That's a good amount of cardio. But, yeah, man, question those appearances. You have an appearance, someone makes you, some external stimuli causes a change in your emotional state or your brain state, question it. Don't just assume that that's who you are. That's one of the things about mindfulness. A lot of people feel like they don't know who they are, they're lost. You know, they want to find themselves. And one of the things that I've found is that if you just pay attention to your inner workings. Now, this is going to be different person to person, because if you're a really like anxious, self-conscious person, looking inward all the time and focusing on how you're feeling might actually be a terrible idea. But if you're not in that situation, give it a try, really. Try to question the emotions and stuff like that, and think about if they're true. Because, you know, I'm always right 100% of the time, but other people, you know, maybe sometimes they think they're right and they're wrong. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah. It was nice to have a stationary bike soliloquy with you all. I'm going to sign off. I'll put the stats up here on the screen, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching.